Okay, that's enough fannying about. I'm getting hungry. Got to get a fire going, and we're in silver birch forest here, so it'll be pretty easy. I'm going to collect some of these very fine twigs up off the floor to get the fire going. But if it was really wet down there, and they were wet, if you look between the V of the trees, you often find that where they've dropped, they've been kept off the ground, and hence they're a lot drier than the ones that are laid on the ground. So I'm going to go spend about half an hour collecting what we need, and then we'll see if we get the fire going and see if I can eventually get that burger cooked. So I'm all set. I've got all sorts of bits and pieces in here. What I'm going to use is some fatwood shavings. You've heard me talk about them before. That's a small branch off a tree which has tried to repair itself after it's broken off, and it's sent all this resin into that branch to try and repair it. It doesn't, but it leaves that broke off branch full of flammable liquid. So I've scraped a few shavings on. Now, problem when you're doing this, I could use my matches, but I'm going to do it with the Fire striker thing, the Roshan rod here. And I'm going to try something I haven't tried before. When I was scraping my fatwood, I thought, oh, once it catches light, it seems to burn out. It doesn't burn out too quickly, but sometimes it's not long enough to get this going. So I sawed off some miniature little logs off the end of my fatwood. Like that, and this should, in theory, give us 3 or 4 minutes of flame to start the other stuff. Oh. Right, you might want a closer look at this, so we'll see if we can arrange that. What would be better would be some little peelings of the outer bark off the birch trees, but we'll try this, see if it'll go. So a bit of bark wasn't strong enough, so it's split and everything's gone down between it. So I'm going to have a little bit of a rethink here. Where's my thingy-majiggy? Let's try it on the hard ground here. Maybe we can lift it up there afterwards. The reason we've got the logs here is it's to give it a base so that the air can get underneath and help the fire go. So I'm going to try and pick this up, sit it on there. Now then, my theory is correct. You know, not very environmental, of course. I mean, you see all this oily smoke blowing off, but hopefully I'm not going to destroy the planet and my burger looks like it wants eating. But I've got some more of them in there if I want to add to it. Something else I carry as well is old bicycle inner tube, bit of rubber, that burns for quite a while. Okay, let's see if we can get this going. So I'll be soon ready for cooking. We're not trying to build a big fire up here to keep going into the night to sit round. This is a thing. If you go out in the woods camping and you want a fire going all the time, and I've said this many times, it's a full-time job going and collecting wood and keeping it going, which is why as a single person it's almost impossible to survive, even with as many survival skills as you know, because at the end of the day you need a group of you, people to share the task. Some people out foraging, some people out collecting wood, some people bringing water and sterilising it. And if you're just stopping for an overnight camp, then you're going to make your fire, you're going to cook your food, and that's going to be it. Which is what I'm going to do in a minute. Aberdeen Angus in dark rail ale, I think it said. Not a lot, but the other thing I brought, and I was going to prepare all this veg when I got here, and then we realised that the situation was going to be such that I wouldn't be able to. I was going to bring the bigger tent, but then I needed to get the weight down, and I didn't. So this is stir fry, which I chopped it all up and cooked it at home, so it just needs warming. So that's going to go in here over the fire in a minute. Now we're going to use the old frying pan here, and I haven't bought cheap and nasty like I did on one of my previous trips where it all fell to pieces. This is actually the lid off my Trangia cook set. So we'll leave that for now, and I'll come back to you later when I'm ready to fill my tummy. Well, there we are. Stir fry smoked, burgers smoked, and I'm smoked. This is what we've been waiting for 2 days. Yeah, I know it don't look brilliant, but tastes much better than those camping foods. Let's have a taste, just make sure. Perfect. No, it's not a cup of tea. In my last video, I was complaining about not having a drop of Sauvignon Blanc to go with my dinner. I've got one this time. It was so tempting to drink it last night, but and even that's not bad for a cheap £5 bottle. Right, I'll get my dinner down and and we'll see if there's anything else we can entertain you with. The bit I ate now, cleaning up. Do some of this stuff. Normally use leaves, as you may have seen, but still trying to avoid this smoke. This moss, I've never studied it, so I don't know anything about it, but I do know that it's excellent for cleaning your pans out, and if you find yourself without toilet roll, this will do a very soft job. Forget about that puppy on the telly running up and down. This is the stuff you need. If you remember, we picked some of these this morning. Soft rush. And you see them in great clumps in wet areas like up on the moorlands and anywhere where there's seriously boggy ground. And for me, the only use they had was to step on from one to the other like stepping stones to get me across these boggy areas. I was on a foraging course with an excellent company called Woodland Ways, very knowledgeable people, and although these weren't part of the subject matter, I saw a clump, and so I asked the instructor, Adam his name was, and I asked him, are they good for anything else other than me standing on? And well, they're not useful for a lot of things. They're great up on the moors for wildlife and everything to hide in. He actually peeled one and chewed on it. He said they're not very good to eat. I mean, cattle and animals won't eat them, but it doesn't do you any harm, and there is nutrition within the centre of these, which it gives you carbohydrates and one or two other bits and pieces. I didn't really take a lot of notice because I wasn't figuring on doing it anytime soon, but when I looked into it, I found something else interesting about these. Back in the day, don't ask me how far back in the day, people used to make candles from these. So in the days when all houses had candles, your stately homes would have candles, but your poor bloke down the road who was living in a hovel, he couldn't afford any. So they used to make them out of these. And the way you do that is you get one, and I've started this one here, and you very carefully peel this outer greenery off. Now I didn't take the very last strand off because otherwise it'll fall apart, and I don't think there's any way you'll be able to see this on the camera, but I'll just bring it a little bit closer anyway and sort of rotate it. But you can see the white bit in the middle there. Well, if you were to look at that under a microscope, you'll find that it's full of thousands of pores. It's like a sponge. So once you've got it peeled, what you do is you get some fat. So they would have rendered down animal fat in those days, and you heat it up, and then I could pour it over with a spoon, and then you soak it in the fat, and then it's just a case of leaving it until it dries. Now, does it work? Let's have a look. Just find my lighter, because as usual, here's one I prepared earlier. The wind's just dropped, so this will be an ideal time to give it a go. It hasn't dried out this, so if it does work, it's not going to work like it should. you've got to leave them to completely dry out. Right, let's get it going. Oh, there we have it. Little bit of a breeze there. Of course, you won't have too much of a breeze inside. Mind you, if you're living in a hovel somewhere, you might. Now, I've never actually, obviously, tried this. This is the very first time. You've just seen me do it for the first time, apart from the preparation. So how long it will burn for if you leave it to dry, I don't know. But, yeah. Candles from the ground. Going now. And just a final mention on the reeds. Because they're like a honeycomb, they hold a lot of air, and they're really good for making reed mats or beds to lie on. And as for the candles, the last known time that they were used for that purpose was just after World War II, when a lot of people were struggling financially and a lot of infrastructure had been destroyed, electricity, and people, probably older people, remembered those skills and went back to using them. So there we are, not so in the distant past as we think. I'm full of useless information. So that's it for this trip, everybody. I'll be up in the morning and walking back to the car and on my way home. Just come out after an hour in the tent of the rain. Rain's cleared. Fire went out, restarted it, and just going to finish off my bottle of wine. Have you noticed over the years how chocolate bars have got smaller? You don't think they're going to start doing it with the wine as well, do you? Stops me drinking too much. Cheers, till next time.